To make homemade strawberry jam, first you'll need a canner or a large pot with a rack in it so that your jars don't bust. You'll need 7 cups of sugar, don't faint. These little grabbers to get your jars out. Sure gel to help your jam set up. A pot to cook the jam in. A funnel, I prefer metal. Measuring cups and knives. Colanders for washing the strawberries. Bowls and spoons to work your berries. Jars with lids and rings. 8 ounces or 12 ounces will do. You'll need berries. You can request a flat of berries or a gallon of strawberries. This is more than that, but I get these from my uncle's farm, and so I had a few extra. You want to get them nice and ripe and red all the way through. Next, you're going to boil your jars to sterilize them. You will want to boil them in water for 10 minutes, or you can sterilize them in the dishwasher. I do not always boil them as long as I should, but technically you are supposed to boil them for 10 minutes. Keep the jars moving so that they don't bust if you have them in boiling water. Some people use their canner to sterilize their jars as well. Once you're done with that, you're going to wash your berries. Do a small batch at a time and try to get all the grit off of them. Next, you're going to cap the berries. You're going to cut the green stem off. You're going to try to conserve as much of the berry as you can. So sort of pull the leaves up, dip down into the berry, and then come back up. Also watch for any really soft spots in the berries or nasty spots and cut them out. And if you get them from the store, sometimes they'll have a white spot on the tip. You'll want to cut that off too. These are nice and ripe, almost red all the way through. Delicious berries from my uncle's farm. Next, you're gonna mash the berries and squish them. You can sort of angle your pot up a little bit and squish them against the side until it looks like this. And you're going to pour each cup into a pot until you get 5 cups. Then before you turn the heat on, you're going to add this Sure gel. So open the packet up. Make sure to get all of it's like a powdery mix. You're going to get it all the way down from the top. And then open it and pour it in. Here I'm showing you the packet that comes in the Sure gel. It has a lot of really good recipes of all different types of berries and fruits, and they're really good. Some of them are freezer recipes. I've done those before, and they're tasty and don't require the water bath canning process. So check them out. They're really good. Next, I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of butter. That's to keep the jam from frothing so much. And you just stir some of that in. Next, I'm getting my spoon, and I'm going to mix it all up. Make sure there's no clumps. Once you have it mixed well, then you can cut it on to about a medium-high heat. You're going to keep stirring the whole time. It will stick to the bottom of the pan, so try to keep it stirred so that it does not do that. It may also boil over. This may or may not have happened to me at one point when I was making pepper jelly, and it was a huge mess to clean up. It actually even bubbled up my glass top stove a little bit. So don't do that. Don't try to multitask. Just stay with it at this point. And as I say that, don't multitask. You can multitask just a little bit by measuring out your sugar. So measure a little sugar and stir your jam as it's starting to heat up. But don't walk away from it. Stay right there with it. You may see a little bit of clumps in my sugar here. I think there was some moisture in my jar when I added the sugar to it. So I had to bust that up a little bit with a fork. It happens. Don't forget you're adding 7 cups of sugar at this point, or measuring out 7 cups. Once your jam is boiling all the way and your sugar is measured out, you see it boiling right there, you're going to add your sugar all at once and then stir it in to incorporate it. It will stop boiling for a little while, but then you're just going to keep stirring again, keep it from sticking, and you're going to keep stirring it until it comes back to a full rolling boil. Once it gets to a full rolling boil, you can start your timer for 1 minute 20 seconds or 1 minute and 30 seconds, depending on what your preference is. That is longer than what is recommended on the Sure Gel box, but the extra time helps the jam solidify, and it's not quite so runny. Here is our full rolling boil. So at this point, you can start your timer. You may have to adjust your heat up or down to keep it from boiling over, or to make sure it stays in a boiling state. Especially glass top stoves, they can be a little tricky, but with practice, it is not too bad. Okay, once your time is up, you can take the jam and take your funnel and pour it into your jars. You want to leave about 1 inch of head space at the top, so you don't want to fill it completely up. You just want to leave a little bit of space for expansion when it's in the water bath. You don't want it to boil over in your water bath. You're just going to move from jar to jar and fill them up. Now you're going to wipe your rims down with a wet washcloth or paper towel. And this is to keep any of that gunk that might end up on your rims from blocking your lids from sealing. And I had a big blob on one of the rims, so I go back and get it for the very end. Now, I like to do my lids and rims, sterilize them at this point. I like them hot at this point to put on the rims. I just use my tongs to pull them out of the boiling water and put them on my jars. And then I tighten them down. I go ahead and use the boiling water that I used for the lids and pour it into my canner at this point. Helps to increase the water temperature a little quicker. But it's not a ton of water, so it's not going to cover the jars yet. So once I place the jars in the canner on the rack, I fill the canner with more water so that it covers the jars with at least 1 inch of water. Here I am putting the jars into the canner on the rack. And again, the water is not high enough, so you have to add water until the water is over the jars by at least 1 inch. I put the canner on high to try to get the water boiling. I put a lid on. It does not have to clamp down. I just loosely set it on top to help the water rise to a higher temperature quicker. All right, here it is boiling. You let it boil for about 10 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on the size of your jars. Check that with your state recommendations, and then you can pull them out with your grabbers. Once they're out of the water, you may start to hear the jars pop, and that is what's called sealing. So right now the lids are sort of curved upwards, and when they seal, they will pop downwards, and you can actually visibly see it. So you can check and make sure they're sealed after a point in time. Probably after a few hours, they should all be sealed. And if one is not sealed, then you can just store it in the refrigerator and it will keep fine there for quite a long time. Probably longer than it's going to last being eaten. There you go. And it's all done. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck. Always check with your state extension agency for recommendations on the processing time for your location's elevation. Happy jam making!